Hey there guys, and it's wonderful to be back with you once again. We'll go ahead and jump straight on into it. As usual, don't worry too much because I haven't actually started anything. This is just the computer playing against itself because of course we would never hit a foul ball like that. So we'll go ahead and just hit the start button and we'll get going here. So thank you as always to everybody who has sent out their recommendations for things to do with the lineup and all of that. I do take it seriously, and so we're going to see a couple of changes. The biggest thing that we saw last time was the improvement of Violet, though her defense is probably not good enough for her to play yet. So to give you an idea here, I kind of showed a little bit of this at the end last time, but maybe you didn't watch the end, it's okay. Like, Pigpen has a defense of 1 as well, and we have him playing first base. So, like, we probably need Violet to have a defense that's a bit higher. I'm thinking more like 8 or 9 or something like that to make her competitive. So our next focus with her will be defense, then eventually it'll go over to running, and then we'll try to make her a little bit better. What I think we're going to do, this was the recommendation that came to me, is probably put Franklin here in right field. And what we're eventually going to try to do is we're going to slowly get left field 1 out. So Franklin will probably go over to right field this game, and I think that eventually we're going to give him a little bit more running, a little bit more defense, put him in left field and have him hit number 2, and then sort of keep him at that, you know, for a little while. See, Franklin we can update with 20,000. Hopefully we'll get a good number of points from him. And Violet costs about, what, 25,000, so we have to kind of hope that we have enough prestige to get this up. It's probably going to be kind of a grind for the next couple of games when we try to get it to the point where we can just get rid of that other guy. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to do it this style instead. So we're going to make a couple of suggestions. Now, if you disagree with anything and you want to, like, you know, change around the idea that we have or anything like that, I would recommend absolutely, let's see, I would recommend going over into the comments at the end of the game and, you know, letting me know what you think. I'm trying to show that I'm more than willing to make it so that I'll do whatever it is that you kind of recommend that we do. Yeah, okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to make a couple of fielder changes here. Let's see, we want Linus to be at third base. This is, again, going off of the comment that I read. And then Sally, we actually want to be at shortstop. So we're going to have a little bit of sort of a lack in the defensive category. We're going down like a little bit to try to get a little bit more offense. This probably will be temporary. Assuming that we win this game, we'll make Franklin a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, try to get him in the 2-hole, and then we'll keep going. As I've said before, I think that Lucy is probably destined to be our leadoff hitter, so that's kind of like the long-term plan here. We'll see if that's what ends up happening or not. So, as somebody was saying, it is sort of like the hot stove league, except for baseball stars, you know, and that's kind of the way that this is, and that's part of the fun. There's also been a robust discussion in the comments about stamina and whether it matters that much if you're throwing like balls that curve and balls that, you know, are fastballs and stuff like that. I don't know, in the last game, I tried to stay away from throwing fastballs, and the pitcher still only lasted, like, whatever it was, 3 innings at most. I think that it's a little bit overrated. I don't think that, I think that the stamina system in this game, honestly, has a lot more to do with your stamina rating than with the types of pitches you're throwing. There probably is some sort of influence that the types of pitches have, but I don't think you can necessarily get by with just throwing nothing but, you know, like cheese straight down the middle of the plate. So that's at least the feeling that I have. Maybe it's right, maybe it's not. But as I've said before, what I'd really like to see is somebody do like an actual study in this game, you know, like on how the game actually works. Somebody actually go through and try some of this stuff out, because otherwise it just turns into sort of a he said, she said type thing, and who knows what's true. I can tell you one thing for sure, though, swinging at pitches like that is not going to help. So we probably shouldn't do a whole lot of that. And Pigpen, unfortunately, is not very fast, so we do have a little bit of improvement that needs to be made, but that's okay. This is their danger man, though he hasn't really hurt us very much recently. I don't know if Charlie Brown has a real good curveball, but that's apparently good enough, and then we should be able to strike him out right here. Yep. So far so good as far as this game is concerned. I still have my ever-present plans for, you know, this project and that project on the channel, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that will likely come up in the near future, assuming that I can kind of get the time to sort of have it happen. Now, I'll tell you something that I've learned. So this channel, by the way, is a little over 3 years old now. I got the announcement the other day in YouTube's YouTube studio reminding me that we're about 3 years old. The interesting thing is that despite the fact that this channel is like 3 years old, I'm still kind of in the discovery phase of how exactly the platform works. So that's one of the reasons why you'll see a lot of different types of experimentation and stuff on here. And it's kind of funny because when you create content for YouTube, you wind up in this situation where like you'll judge yourself based upon sort of like the number of views a video gets, or sometimes even based on like the amount of watch time, which is, if you're monetized, that's the thing that actually pays you. And so if you have a video that maybe doesn't get a whole bunch of watch time, or you made like $1 off of it or something like that, a situation I feel like I've been in frequently. Dude, why did you leave the bag? All right. Why did you do that? Stay on the bag. Stay on the bag so I can throw them out. Anyway, if you're getting like $1 or $2 from a video or something like that, you look at it and you think, oh man, this was a failure. But it's not necessarily the case. There's all sorts of other stuff that plays into it. All right. All the YouTube gurus will tell you stuff. It's actually pretty frustrating when you start making content if you actually want to do a better job of it, because you end up reading a bunch of advice that is questionable at best. And if you're not careful, you'll start actively changing sort of your strategy around to try to fit advice that might be true and it might not. The way I understand it really is that what I think you really want on this platform is to get, you know, groups of people together who are very interested in your content and who watch you regularly. So having a video, I've said this before on Reddit, but you know, it's Reddit, so whatever. Oh man, that made me look really foolish. Jeez, way in the dirt. Having a video that gets, I don't know, like 100,000 views, which I have done before. Having a video that gets you 100,000 views doesn't necessarily help you that much unless there's something in it that causes people to want to continue to watch your content, right? Like, for example, over on my basketball channel, I have a video about Michael Jordan not being in NBA Jam that has, I think it's like 200,000 plus views, you know, since it came out. That was definitely a lot of trial and error, and I finally found the one video that clicked. But that doesn't mean that like every video afterwards gets 100,000 views, right? You get a certain number of like new subscribers or whatever from this, you know. Your channel maybe is a little bit more, you know, prominent. Maybe a couple of videos afterwards do a little bit better as well. But the overall effect of having a huge, like a video that does really well ends up not lasting that long, right? It ends up maybe lasting you like, I don't know, like it'll last for you for, you know, maybe like a couple weeks or something like that, and then the effect dies off. So when it came to that channel, that video helped the channel get monetized, and then I made, you know, I don't know, a certain amount of money off of it afterwards. And then things have more or less died down. What you have to do is you have to be constantly making new content, and more than that, what you really need to have is, you know, constant content that gets people to want to watch continuously, right? You want to have like a series that has people interested in it, or you want to have, you know, content that, like, I don't know, is kind of unique to your channel. You want to have like some sort of, I don't know, some sort of, not just like a niche, but you want to have some sort of like feeling that gets people, you know, to feel like they're really watching your authentic content and all that stuff. That's a lot harder to create, and that's the thing that you're always worried about on YouTube, which is, you know, am I making something that's authentic? Am I making something that, you know, is going to be attractive to my current audience or the audience that I previously had? Or am I making a bunch of videos that are trying to be like somebody else's videos and stuff like that? So anyway, there's sort of an idea of kind of what you end up thinking about. But because of that, there's always this thought that always goes through my head about, well, I could try to do this type of a project or that type of a project or whatever, you know. And honestly, who cares about the amount of time that it takes to, you know, actually try this stuff out, right? Let's just try it. Let's see what happens. So that's kind of the phase that we're in right now. So even after 3 years, you're still kind of, you feel like you're brand new and you're still trying to figure out how it works, which is a lot of fun. I am happy, though, that this series in particular has wound up becoming popular, and this is actually kind of unusual. I thought at first that, why doesn't he throw home? Okay, we got to run for free. I thought at first that this series was actually probably not going to go anywhere. I knew that this is a popular game, but I thought, I mean, who's going to want to sit around and watch, you know, me play this game until the end of time? As it turns out, actually, quite a few people are interested in this. I do think though that it makes a difference if you can, you know, help people feel like they're actually part of what's happening. You know, as I said before in an earlier video, I remember watching Lelujo playing one of those series 5-6 years ago, and feeling really frustrated when I would leave comments that I thought were pretty good, and nothing that I said would ever happen in the game. I would think, well, this is awful. Why am I watching this? Why am I leaving comments? You know. So if you're interested in making content, don't do that. You know, you want to be responsive to your audience, and you want to try to help people feel at least like, you know, they're a legitimate part of what's going on. And by the same token, if you're interested in this series or in other series I'm going to do in the future or whatever, please, you know, leave a comment. If you don't want to leave a comment, you can send me an email. You can always find my email under the send inquiries to thing, you know, they have on there for commercial inquiries. Something that I've never received, maybe one day, but I mean, who knows, right? Yeah, that's another story, the story of YouTube sponsorships and the sort of total, like, scummy, sketchy garbage you get out of that. Anyway. I'm not sure how happy I am with the prospect of YouTube sponsorships, other than, you know, money, money, money or whatever, but a lot of the stuff you see out there, people who are hawking, you know, VPN services and stuff, it's just as sketchy as it seems, you know, and you're like, well, this doesn't have anything to do with your actual product, you know, why are you doing it? I don't know, what do you think? Should we change pictures? See, the other thing I could be doing is I could be making content as like a stream, right? So then you could tell me right away what to do. I'm not a huge fan of that, I've said before. I mean, a big part of the reason why I'm not a fan of streaming is because so many streams turn into the streamer ignoring the game and saying thanks to so-and-so for, like, subscribing or something, you know. This is not the sort of content that I'm interested in watching, let alone content that I want to make. But in addition to that, like, the big issue I have with streaming is that I would then have to have an actual regular schedule, which at the moment I don't really have, which is one of the reasons why. So I'm recording this a little bit later in the day. If you want to know the full details behind it, the reason why I'm recording this later in the day is because I was a little bit behind. So usually I like to have my blog posts written ahead of time, but I've been falling behind recently. So I had to write the baseball and my Dream of the Red Chamber blog post this morning, which I did. We got it done. It wasn't actually that bad. And it never is as hard as you think it is. You always kind of psych yourself out. But then after that, I had to actually record and then put together my latest video on the Football Manager channel, which you should watch if you haven't yet. That's a pretty interesting video talking about the A and BC gum soccer cards in England, which is something most of you probably have never heard of. A&BC Gum was a company that created a bunch of these, you know, footballer cards, soccer cards and stuff back in the, you know who we're putting in right now, right? Of course we are. A&BC Gum was this company that made these cards back in, like, you know, the 60s and early 70s and stuff. Starting in 1959, the company developed a working relationship with Topps. And the way that this worked, I think that Topps approached A&BC Gum and like tried to get in on that stuff, you know, if you know what I'm talking about. So the thing about the industry for soccer cards in England is that before World War II, they were all cigarette cards. It's actually kind of crazy. All right, so like in the baseball card industry, we're used to thinking about like Goudy gum, you know, and like in the 1920s, you had Z-Nuts. I think the Z-Nuts were sold with either some kind of cracker or some kind of like Cracker Jack type thing or something like a Peanuts product or something like that. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head exactly what it is. You guys can look it up and tell me. But when you look also at like hockey cards in Canada, right? OPG started off, well, OPG was a gum company, right? Gum and confectionaries, right? So the cigarette card era in North America basically died out by the early 20s. But when you look at soccer cards in England, cigarette card era lasted until like 1940 or something like that, 39, like right before World War II started. All right, which is kind of bizarre, and it gives you kind of a weird feeling to realize that these were all just cigarette cards. In fact, technically speaking, a lot of the sets after A&BC Gum folded that were kind of major sets were also cigarette card type sets, but they were with so-called candy cigarettes. Anyway. The thing is though that it wasn't really until like the mid 50s that they started creating cards with that would go together with gum. The other thing that's funny about it is that bubblegum in the UK right after the war was pretty low quality. Big home run. Who is it that hit that? I'm not even paying attention. I'm just telling you about this video that you're not going to watch. I guess we'll find out in a second who hit that, but okay, that was Pigpen. That was number 4 for Pigpen. That one just barely got out though. We need to bump him up a little bit more if we're going to compete against the big guys. Anyway, so bubblegum in England, you know, like made by A and BC Gum, originally was like pretty crappy. There was no sugar in it because there was sugar rationing and stuff like that. What happens is, so Topps comes along in like 57, 58 or something like that and gets this agreement with them where A and BC is allowed to sell Topps' Bazooka bubblegum and put its, you know, football cards in with it. All that Topps wanted from it, I believe, was just sort of like a percentage of the profit. And so as a result, if you look at A and BC football cards from 1959 through about 1972, these sets look eerily similar to Topps baseball cards from like the year before, right? So like the 59 football cards look almost exactly like 1958 Topps baseball cards, like down to like the design, the lettering, the font, you know, the colors, everything looks the same. There's, you remember, I think it's either 61 or 62 Topps that has the like wood panel type look on it, you know, that must have been 62 Topps, I'm guessing. That, you know, is a real sort of classic look and all that stuff. Well, the next year's A and BC Gum cards had the exact same look, right? That's basically what was happening. And it's not that they were stealing the design, it's that Topps was giving them, I think, a lot of like consulting help, you know, with like the right way to make the cards, the way to design them, and so on and so forth. Anyways, I figured I'd mention that. I know that we do have people here who are really interested in card collecting. A and BC Gum cards, football cards from the 60s and 70s are very, very undervalued, in that you can buy whole sets for like $100, right? These cards were not printed in huge quantities. I was hoping that would drop in, oh well. But they're not printed in huge quantities, you know. I don't know that the market ever is going to really take off because it hasn't taken off in 50-something years. But I also think that the vast majority of people don't even know that these cards are a thing. So anyways, a lot of stuff to sort of like check out. The truth is that your soccer cards didn't really take off until Upper Deck came out with them starting in 1993, and that was of course around the 94 World Cup. Oh, see, I didn't even have to jump for that, so sometimes you do have to jump for those, sometimes you don't. And they're keeping their pitcher in, which is really good news for us. Meanwhile, we're going to have to take this pitcher out at the end of this half inning, I think. There we go, 1, 2, 3. Anyway, so yeah, if you want, go check it out. The video, as of, it came out this morning because I've made it this morning, which is not what I want to do. But that video right now has probably like 10 views. So this is one that you would look at and consider a failure, but I at least think that the topic is interesting. A lot of YouTube is like this, by the way, you know, even if you supposedly like know what it is that you're doing. So this doesn't make sense. Why didn't they take the pitcher out and pinch hit for him? Why did they leave him in so that he could give up a base hit and then take him out? And why didn't I let that ball hit me, right? That's what I should have done. Of course, that was my plan that time, and then I give up strike 2. I'm not playing very well this game, are I? Well. This is just one of those days at the office. Anyway, but like I said, that's sort of the way it works with YouTube, right? Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. Actually, what really happens is usually you get it wrong, and sometimes you like mysteriously get something right, and then you spend the rest of your time trying to figure out what magical thing it is you did that actually worked, you know? And then you go make your next video, and then you remember, oh yeah, that's right, I actually only have like, you know, 50 people who watch things, you know? Anyway, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of Charlie Brown that comes out in you when you try to make videos on this platform. The fun part actually is when you get to the gurus, the guys who swear up and down that they, you know the right way of doing things. And some of them, you know, like vidIQ or whatever, will have really flashy looking videos and have a whole bunch of, you know, like I don't know, like professional looking animations and stuff around, or I guess they don't use animations that much, but you know, everything that they do is like designed to look really pro and all of that. And then when you start digging into their business model, you realize that, yeah, it's not really that great, and it's mostly a scam. It is. Their advice is like kind of dime a dozen. You can go onto Reddit and find the same advice, and people will give it to you for free, you know. Oh, wow. I want to see one of my guys charge the mound. You can do that in Legends of the Diamond. That happens sometimes. Anyway, the other thing I've been thinking about this channel is perhaps bringing back some shorts, doing some game footage that I then, you know, condense down and put into a short format or something if we have something like good or interesting happening. I don't know. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort. And so because it takes some effort, there's always this like natural resistance where you're like, yeah, that takes work. I don't know if I really want to work, you know. I just want to keep, you know, just turning the camera on and, you know, saying whatever's on my mind, you know, and having people tell me how wonderful the series is or something like that. Oh crap. You know, maybe we should actually start spending some money on defense. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about that play? Yeah. We're not exactly, you know, whipping the ball around the infield, that's for sure. Oh yeah. That time we did. How about that? Good double play for us. Okay, so, bottom of the 8th inning. And see, if we can score enough runs here, we can end this game like right now, right? If we score 4 runs, this game's over. Sally's probably thinking I'm putting pressure on her. I love how all of the umpires look like Wendelstad, right? Remember him? The really, you know, obese guy who was kind of like roly-poly type? This is the Wendelstad game. Ooh. I should have kept going. I thought he was going to throw, so I went back to first, and then he started running to first. Whatever. Come on, Franklin. Get a base hit. Or just do that. That's good enough. Go ahead and pop it up. Oh, I didn't want to choose Frida. Okay, well, whatever. We should give her some experience, right? It would be nice if this game were just like this, but it also had like a little bit of Final Fantasy in it, so that like, you know, if you hit into a double play or something, you would still get like experience points, you know? Anyway, whatever. I'm just sort of dreaming out loud right now. Oh, crap. Anyways, after my last and quite successful video, by the way, talking about RBI 2 and RBI 3, I do think that once this series is done, which will probably be in like a year at the rate we're going, once this series is done, though, I do think that I'm going to start going through all of the Famista games. And that will mean, by the way, me like trying to get the Japanese back out again so we can like start reading players' names and stuff like that. And probably will end up in me being ridiculed by people for pronouncing things wrong and stuff. So anyway, look for that coming up to a channel near you in the near future. I'm not sure that anybody's actually done that, like a full Famista, you know, walkthrough or whatever. Pigpen hit his 4th home run. We won 7-1. Shacho has now lost 7 games against us as we continue our string of dominance, and we get 52,000 out of that. See, this is why you do it. This is why you do it this way. So what we're going to do is we're going to go, as promised, we want to do an upgrade here to Franklin. What we wanted to do, see, this is the problem, right? This is the problem right here. So we are going to give him 1 running and 1 defense. We'll probably leave it at that. I don't know. You tell me in the comments what you think. I think that this is probably good enough to put him up in the defensive order a little bit. And then we're going to do this, of course. We get our 3 points from her. We cannot power up anymore. So we're going to have to wait until the next game. And I think that our big priority is going to be giving her more points on defense. And the reason why is because we can get her bat in the lineup kind of exclusively. Last thing that we want to do is we want to do a little bit of a prestige bump. Or does anybody need it? Well, we can't power him up right now. Can't power him up. We can't power him up, and now this is the question. We can't power his prestige up either. So we will not do much of a prestige boost if that's the case, since we can't, yeah, we don't have enough money to get her powered up. What I think we will do is we'll buy a power-up for Frida, and see, here you go, you get your power-up of 6. So, I mean, what do you think we should do? We could put it all into defense. That would give her a defense of 7, which means that we might want to consider putting her into the starting lineup. I think, though, that we would probably wait a little bit. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I mean, she's kind of a defensive replacement right now. Probably not good enough quite to start in the lineup. But her price is still only 16,000. So, you know, next time we get next time we win, I think this is what we're going to do next time we win, right? I think we're going to go over to Violet. We're going to try to get that defense pumped up. Hopefully we only have to do it one more time. And then we'll spend the rest on Frida and try to get her hitting and batting pumped up a little bit so we can put her in the lineup. And then we'll kind of go from there. Eventually we will want to get Violet to actually be able to run. But what that'll do is it'll give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players theoretically in the lineup. And that's when we can start like getting rid of like this guy and go over and buy a couple of more players and eventually get things sorted out that way. The other thing we want to do with Charlie Brown is eventually we're going to get to the point where we increase his stamina. We don't need it right now because we keep winning all of these games, but in the near future, when we're done with our 25 games against the SNK Crushers and we start playing against other teams, that's when we're really going to need to make a couple of changes, and we'll need to, you know, get guys pumped up as much as we can. So that's the way that the grind works here. I think that was game number 19 that we just played. I don't know. These statisticians can let me know how many it's been. Anyway, thank you again for joining us. Let me know again in the comments what you think, if you think we're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, and let's strategize together and do the best that we can to make this team as good as we can possibly make it. I'll talk with you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.